All right, what we're going to talk about here is levels of measurement. Levels of measurement are important when we think about how we're going to use the data. Qualitative data is different from quantitative data, and certain quantitative data can't be used for stuff like linear regressions because it might be categorical or ordinal or some weirdness. So it's important to try to define what it is, how it is that your data looks, so that you know that you're collecting the right type of data for the future methodology that you're going to use, right? The four basic levels of measurement include nominal, and think about them in this order, right? This is order of specificity. Nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio, where it gets more specific as we come down this list. And in many ways, from a quantitative perspective, it's more usable, right? Nominal data is going to be the type of data that describes something. Let me see if I can get this out of the way. Yeah, something like that. Nominal data is going to be used to describe something. But it doesn't necessarily tell you where it is, or it doesn't tell you what the value of it is. Something that is nominal is just a simple characteristic. For example, a color or an ethnicity. Can I make that skinnier? I can. An ethnicity, a country, a county, something that says, hey, this one is different from the other one, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better than, right? A red cannot be better than a blue. That's very much a client preference decision, right? My county is not better than your county. It's possible that my football team in my county can beat your football team in your county. I'm from Texas, so that's kind of a big deal. But it doesn't mean that one county is better than the other, right? It just means that they're different and that we can tell them apart that way. Ordinal has a comparable characteristic, right? But it's often in these categories where we can't measure the difference between them. You'll often find this in what we call a Likert scale, right? On a scale from 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how satisfied are you in your cheeseburger, right? You see these a lot in marketing when you have, poor, satisfactory, good, excellent. And we're able to say, hey, this one is better than that one, but we can't really see how much better it is, right? So how far is poor from satisfactory? Well, depending on where you're at, poor from satisfactory might be a big leap, right? For the most part, everything's okay. Yeah, it's fine. Like, you have to have a cockroach in my burger in order to go down to poor because I'm hungry and I'm just going to eat the burger. But how much better but what's the distance, for example, to get from good to excellent? Well, it's got to have bacon, and it's got to have sauteed onions, and it's got to have mushrooms. That's just my burger. But, the distance between poor and satisfactory might be different than the distance between satisfactory and good. And so we know that one is better than the other, especially in terms of preferences, but we don't know how much more, right? Interval fixes that problem for us, right? It is comparable and measurable. Meaning that I can tell that one thing is better than the other, and I can tell how much. Students' grades are a great example, right? Well, you got a 90, he got a 95. Is that better than? Yeah, it's better than. So it is at least interval. It's not ordinal anymore. It's better than by 5 points. It's a measurable difference, right? Finally, ratio is comparable. It is measurable. And in ratio, 0 means 0. What does that mean? It means that when we have 0, we are measuring the lack of existence of, right? So like if you play golf and you have a score of, as an example, let me see if I can keep it up here in the corner. If you play golf and you have a score of 0 or par, where par equals 0, does that mean a score of 0? No, it means that on this hole, you have a par 3, and you were able to hit it in 3 strokes, so your score is 0, right? No, it doesn't mean that you did not swing the golf club. It means you swung the golf club 3 times and got a score of 3. 0 does not mean 0 in golf. 0 means 0 when there is a lack of. Again, students' test scores are a good example of ratio, because if you got a 0 on the exam, either you got them all wrong or you failed to take the exam at all, right? 0 means 0, right? Let's go through a couple of these examples for practice. I'll try to keep, you know what, I won't. We'll keep them up here. And what we'll do is we'll list them over here on the right. So nominal, interval, nope, sorry. I often send categorical, but it's not. It's ordinal, interval, and ratio, right? And as we are going to, if you're having trouble with this, that's okay. We're going to walk through them down, and we're going to ask a very specific question each time. Number 1, is it nominal, right? Are they different? Are the data points different? Okay, so temperature. Can I tell that 2 different temperatures exist? Well, there's a hot and a cold. Yes, I can tell that 2 temperatures exist. It's at least nominal, right? Number 2, ordinal. Can I tell that one is greater than another? And be careful with the word greater, lesser, because sometimes tall is good and sometimes tall is bad. Sometimes high is good, sometimes high is bad. So it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It means that it has magnitude, right? That's probably a better word here. Magnitude. Is there magnitude in the difference between them? Well, in temperature, there is magnitude, right? I can tell that 90 is hotter than 80. Okay, there is a difference between them, and I can tell that one has greater magnitude than the other. So temperature has at least ordinal, right? Okay, great. Number 3, interval. Can I measure the difference between them? Yeah, how do I measure? Well, 80's here, 90's there. There are 10 degrees between 80 and 90, so I know there's 10 degrees between them. It's at least interval, right? Okay, good. Number 4, ratio. Does 0 mean 0? This one's a little tricky. It's why we started here. Does 0 mean 0? Well, what does that mean? Does 0 temperature mean 0 temperature? I don't get it. Is 0 temperature? No, 0 does not mean 0. What happens at 0 temperature Celsius? Water freezes. Does that mean that there's a lack of temperature at 0? No. It's still cold, right? So it is not ratio. All right. Now there's an argument with temperature about, going to Kelvin and absolute 0. We're not having that discussion today, right? So the answer for temperature in this case is interval, right? Age. Age is a tricky one because we're going to ask all the same questions, but age can be measured in minutes and seconds and all this kind of stuff. But let's just walk through it as if we were normal people, not complex statisticians, right? Nominal. Can I tell if age is different? Does it have a characteristic? Do you and I have different ages? Possibly, yes, it's nominal. Okay, great. We all start with nominal. Number 2, actually, you know what? I'll do it over here so we can keep track. Number 2, ordinal. Is there a magnitude? Can you have one person who's older than another person? Yes, you can. Number 3, interval. Can I measure the difference between them? Yeah, he's 3 years older than me. Okay, great. That's fine. I can do that. Does 0 mean 0? If you have 0 years, does that mean you have a lack of existence? And in this case, I'm going to say yes, right? From the moment you're born, you are 0.001 years old, right? Or whatever. So I'm going to say this one's ordinal. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this one's ratio. You could argue that you could argue interval here if you wanted to, but again, not getting into details. Client satisfaction is super obvious, right? It's ordinal. It's going to measure one thing.